You're on the Spot with Mande Wilkes.
I'm Mande Wilkes. Welcome to On the Spot. Thank you for turning me on this morning. You're in for a special treat today because I'm here with my brand new co-host, Faith Felice. Faith is the boldest, blondest conservative bombshell in South Carolina and is the very pretty face of the Lexington Tea Party. She's got beauty, brains, and balls, and she's bringing them all right here on the spot. Welcome, Faith.
Thank you, Mande. Good to be here.
Yes, I'm glad to have you on as co-host.
Thank you.
All right, first is a really hot topic. DHEC has banned synthetic marijuana and something called bath salts. Now, I have to be honest, Faith, I'm going to hurt my cool quotient here, but I'm kind of like Bill Clinton. I've never smoked marijuana. I've never inhaled or anything. So maybe I'm just a fuddy-duddy. But even so, I'm really not cool with this ban on this synthetic marijuana, mostly because I'm hearing from DHEC, sources within DHEC, that say that it's the Black Caucus, black lawmakers in the State House, who have been putting pressure on DHEC to ban synthetic marijuana, basically because underground black drug dealers have really had their business hurt. So I don't know. I'm having a hard time. Is this really for the best interest of the people? I don't know. Or is this to protect, underground black drug dealers, which is what I'm hearing from sources in DHEC?
Well, I think anytime the government steps in and puts its paws over a legitimate product and criminalize it, it's a bad thing. Essentially, you have the nanny state that steps in and criminalizes a product that legitimate retailers and legitimate customers use in a legitimate way. You can look at it as, what's next? This is a slippery slope. What's next? Why isn't alcohol outlawed?
Right, a ton of people are saying that. Alcohol kills more people than synthetic marijuana for sure, right?
Absolutely. So you get these knuckleheads that take a legitimate product and use it in illegitimate ways, and the government feels the need to step in and protect them. Well, if you would just practice individual responsibility, you wouldn't have the need for the government to step in. There's never a need. Let me clarify that. There's never a need for the government to step in. It's all about personal responsibility or the lack thereof. So if these knuckleheads, like I used before, want to step in and snort incense or smoke oregano, and then it leads to them ending up in the hospital, well, bottom line is, they should know better. They should know better.
Personal responsibility, no nanny state.
Personal responsibility, exactly. I don't want to see anybody end up in the hospital, but once again, what are you going to do? Ban gasoline next? Because you're always going to have somebody who's going to do something ridiculous with a legitimate product.
Something stupid, yeah.
Something stupid. This is something that, this is government overreaching. This is the nanny state, pure and simple.
I agree, it's the nanny state. And that's exactly what my DHEC sources are telling me, is that basically a bunch of these black drug dealers who were making a ton of money, making bank from selling marijuana on the streets, now don't have that source of income and now are applying for food stamps and welfare and all the rest of it. And so my sources in DHEC are actually telling me, look, this is a legitimate product, which is what you're saying, Faith. But basically, the Congressional Black Caucus in the State House is pressuring this to protect the underground drug dealers. I think there's something to it, and that's why I have a hard time, really figuring out what's going on with this ban and why is it even in place. But yeah, the nanny state, absolutely not.
And we could talk about, too, the failed war on drugs, and then this wouldn't be happening. We could talk about the failed war on drugs and how that relates to this issue. But bottom line, the government is stepping in where it doesn't need to be stepped into an issue that doesn't need government intervention. People need to practice personal responsibility, and this issue would be a non-issue.
Right, and talking about the nanny state and government overreaching, how about this Occupy movement, this Occupy Wall Street?
Absolutely.
Now here's the thing, everybody's talking about Occupy Wall Street, now it's stemmed off into South Carolina. Here's what I'm thinking about. The whole Occupy movement got its start and continues to blossom and explode because of social media. Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, LinkedIn, all of it. These groups have no leaders, they have very little funding really, but they're making a huge impact on politics. And what freaks me out a little bit is, what does this mean for the future of America and for, as close as next year's election? Because if the leftists are so good at harnessing social media, where does that leave the right? I mean, do you think that the Tea Party has really done a good job harnessing social media?
No, I don't think so at all. And look at Obama's campaign in 2008. Look at his campaign and how he used the social media. He was a genius at it. That's why we have, you know, Obama in office right now, partly due to social media. The right has never been good at it historically, and if you look at the technological companies of Silicon Valley, they're all led by progressives and the left. So that makes complete sense to me that they're harnessing this power. Do I think that the right has lost the war? No. Do I think that we've lost this battle? I do. I think that we could definitely utilize it more. But back to your original point that the Occupy movement doesn't have funding and doesn't have a leader, I would disagree with that. I think they have plenty of funding behind the scenes, and I think that this is a diversion from the upcoming elections. That's a side note, but that's my opinion of that.
So maybe they have funding, but they don't have leaders because they're organizing on Facebook.
They're organizing on Facebook. They're mobilizing on Facebook. I think they're organizing behind the scenes, but they're definitely using the social media to mobilize, to communicate with each other, to go on the attack. It's really funny. If you talk to some of these Occupy Wall Street or occupiers and ask them what their agenda is or ask them what their issues are,
they don't know.
They don't know what it is. They don't know. They can't give a clear, concise definition of what it is.
They're on a bandwagon.
They're on a bandwagon, and they've hitched to essentially what the Tea Party started to do, which was you know, mobilize, take back, mobilize large groups of people outside of the political process, outside of the political parties. So I think that the Occupy movement has definitely latched onto that and then added the social media and that platform as more of a springboard to kind of leapfrog over the Tea Party.
And it has leapfrogged over the Tea Party. I'll tell you, last week I spoke to a member, a participant in the Occupy Myrtle Beach and Occupy Charleston movement, a professor, Jason Eastman. And, you know, after the show, he said to me, I don't know if I'm comfortable with you calling me because I called him the organizer because, you know, he responded to my request for an interview. To me, he's an organizer. And he said, I don't have anything to do with it. He said to me, I just put up a Facebook page, Mandy. I don't consider myself an organizer. And I said, well, I don't know. Maybe in 2011 and 3/4, almost 2012, that's all it takes. You just put up a Facebook page and you have a political movement, you know?
Maybe.
But only the left is doing that. The right isn't doing that.
Well, because the left really doesn't stand for anything. They don't really have any moral touchstone that they stand for. So of course nobody wants to be the leader of it, because the leader of what? They don't have a moral compass. They don't have anything that they stand for. It's just a bunch of flea bags getting together, protesting nothing, beating a drum.
Well, I've heard you say before that it's like a generational divide thing, that maybe leftists tend to be cooler and more hip and more with technology, and so that's what we see going on, that the right is just slower to catch on.
I would say that. I would say that it's not so much a left-right issue, that it's more a generational issue, that really the millennials really know how to take charge of the social media. This is what they do. This is how they communicate with each other. They text. They don't talk. They, you know, Facebook. They don't pick up the phone and call.
In a way.
It's
rebellious.
It's very rebellious. It's very rebellious. And I think that it's more of a generational thing than really a left-right thing. Historically, I think you're probably right in that the right hasn't taken advantage of all the media that's out there. So I think you're right in that respect.
All right. Speaking about the generational divide, Elle magazine, which I usually love, has got an article out about baby Palins. They're featuring what they call baby Palins, which I think Elle magazine is saying women like me and you know, red meat eating, gun carrying. You were in the NRA, Faith.
Absolutely.
You worked for the NRA,
I worked for the National Rifle Association. A great place to work.
So Elle magazine's calling you a baby Palin. I don't know. Are you a baby Palin? Am I a baby Palin?
I'd rather be a baby Palin than a baby Pelosi or a baby Clinton or a baby Wasserman Schultz. I don't think it's a pejorative. I think they use it as a pejorative to try to marginalize women on the right who are political, sexy, you're political, you're running for office. I think that they're very scared about this new generation.
The changing face of politics.
The changing face of politics. The women that are out there that are changing the face of politics. And I think it's their effort to marginalize the changing face of politics. They're very worried about it. And I, quite frankly, don't always think it's only the women on the left that are worried about it. I think it's the men on both sides of the aisle that are also worried about it.
Because all of a sudden the men are like, are we going to become disenfranchised? And, you know, who are these sexy women taking over politics?
Absolutely.
And the thing about the baby Palins, the Elle magazine featuring baby Palins, it's supposed to, they're doing it in a really negative way, basically saying, you know, these are women who take advantage of supposed feminist benefits and feminist ideals, but reject feminism. And I know I reject feminism, and you do too, right?
I reject feminism, absolutely. And I don't identify with the feminazis on the left. I identify more with Palin. Now, you may disagree with her policies, you may disagree with her politics, but you cannot deny her superstar ability or her rainmaker ability. You just cannot deny it. So I think a lot of women have identified with Palin and have come out of their shell, so to speak. So if you want to call them baby Palins and they want to use it as a pejorative, go right ahead.
What I wonder is, would Elle magazine call our governor, Nikki Haley, a baby Palin?
I think maybe she follows in that those footsteps somewhat.
Telegenic sex appeal kind of thing.
Absolutely.
I think really the undercurrent of this baby Palin phenomenon in its negative light is the sex appeal of so many of us so-called baby Palins.
Absolutely.
You know, people don't want us to be up here in, you know, fun clothes. They want us to be in suits and jackets, and because then we look like everybody else running. You know, we're indistinguishable from all the other, you know, old white men.
That's right. Then we fit into what the left perceives as what women should be in politics, which is the pantsuit wearing, unattractive, shrill, vacuous politicians on the left.
Baby Pelosi's, right?
Baby Pelosi's, the Janine Garofalos of the world. I can't identify with them. And I think they're really bitter over the fact that you have successful, sexy women who have not swallowed the leftist agenda socialist pill. So I think they're a little bitter about it.
And who really know, you know, here's the thing about baby Palins. Baby Palins, if we're going to call ourselves that, we know you actually can have everything, maybe not all at once, but you know, you can package sex and politics, and you can make it fun, and you can make it substantive, and you can use the superstar, you know, telegenic thing to really change the face of politics and change what's going on. And there's so many people, particularly the men like you brought up, who really haven't jumped on this bandwagon and who are saying, wait, you know, we're being left behind. We're being left behind. And, you know, I can't tell you, when I ran for the State House last year, so many people told me, wow, you know, just because you're a woman and you're young, you're 25, you know, people are going to vote for you just because of that. This is, you know, the whole Sarah Palin, Nikki Haley phenomenon.
Right.
And you know, and that's what's going on. So no, am I a baby Palin? I don't know, but I think you're right. I think I'm more of a baby Palin than a baby Pelosi or even a baby Bachmann. I have to be honest.
Baby Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah,
I can definitely identify more with being a baby Palin and following in her footsteps than I can women on the left. And unfortunately for them, they're kind of missing the boat.
You're right.
I think they are.
There's one of my favorite baby Palins, and I'm sure she'd love to be called that. Her name is S.E. Cupp. She's really, really cool. She's really sexy. She knows her stuff. You know, she knows her stuff. She's writes for Tucker Carlson. She really knows her stuff, and I just see her being kind of the baby Palin, like who, you know, who we want to kind of follow. And you introduced me, Faith, to a group, Smart Sexy Politics, Smart Girls in Politics, something like that.
Smart Girl Politics.
Is that kind of baby Palins banding together?
I think it's definitely baby Palins banding together. I think it's a bunch of smart, young, sexy women that drench themselves in pink and are glad to be females in every sense of the word and are political. And I think that's a great thing.
Drench themselves in pink. I love it. I'm drenching myself in red today, but I love it. I know what you mean. Drench themselves in pink.
They drench themselves in pink and they wrap it around them as a flag to be proud of. And I'm completely on board with that. And I think that it would be interesting to see the next generation of, like you said, baby Palins. Because I think when you change the face of politics, what comes next? What
comes next? And that's, you know, that's why I'm bringing up these other women, because it's like, you know, Sarah Palin said she's not going to run now. I don't know. We see her on TV less and less. Actually, you know, Rupert Murdoch recently admitted he hired Sarah Palin just because she is sexy and she is political. And I think that's cool. I mean, that right there is an affirmation and a validation of this whole baby Palin movement. And yeah, I mean, the face continues to change, and Sarah Palin's kind of, I don't know if she's in the game, out of the game. I don't know what's going on with that, but I know there's a lot of women like me and you who are kind of taking the reins, and Call us Baby Palins if you want, Elle Magazine.
Absolutely. Use it as a pejorative. I take it as a compliment. And anytime they're talking about you is a good thing.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
You know what, I heard this one time and I love it, and I think any baby Palin could totally relate to this. There's no shade of limelight that's bad for a girl's complexion.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
All right. Well, we are two chicks in politics, so we could talk about this stuff forever, but we'll hush for right now. And when we come back, I'll be talking to another chick in politics, Professor Joyce Barnes. A few days ago, I sat down with Professor Barnes to talk about her insurgency campaign for the Myrtle Beach City Council. Stay right there. When I come back, I'll be right back with that exclusive interview. Welcome back. I'm here talking to candidate for Myrtle Beach City Council, Joyce Barnes. Welcome, Joyce. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
First things first, I really want to ask you. You've never been in public office, right?
No, I never have.
That's why I wanted you on the show today. There's, I think, 7 incumbents running to fill the slots open at the City Council.
3.
These incumbents will not get out of office.
Well, that's what people have told me.
Right.
They're career politicians, and that's one of the reasons I thought I might have a good chance, because I'm new, I'm fresh, I've been in Myrtle Beach as a tourist for 25 years, and then I've lived here for 12 years. So I've seen Myrtle Beach from all different aspects.
So you have a vested interest in Myrtle Beach's past and its future.
Yes.
And what made you decide to jump in the race?
Well, I'm a public servant now. I teach. I've taught elementary school, and I teach college now. And to me, it's just part of being a public servant. I thought I would want to serve my community because I love Myrtle Beach. I love the beach. I love living within walking distance to the ocean. I live right in downtown, so I love that. And I thought, well, this is time for me to jump in and make a difference and contribute something.
Make a difference and save Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you something. I think that one way, probably the most effective way we can save Myrtle Beach is by taking away this crazy 1% sales tax that the city of Myrtle Beach collects for the Chamber of Commerce. It's wacky to me. You tell me, will you work to rescind the 1% sales tax that everybody hates so much?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so, because I went to City Council yesterday and I saw the good things they were doing with that money. And that's money that will buy advertising for the city and bring in new tourists. And I think that the people that moved to Myrtle Beach love it because it has low taxes. I come from the north, and our taxes were probably 4 to 5 times more for the property values. So I think that paying 1% sales tax, I don't think that that's a bad thing. I'm for the 1%.
So you're for the 1%
I'm for the 1% sales tax.
That's a scary position to take. You're a brave woman.
Oh.
You're a brave woman,
I'm not
Ms.
a politician,
Barnes.
so maybe I said the wrong thing, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
You don't think it scares people away from vacationing? I have to tell you, I'm in small business. My family's been in small business, retail, my whole life. And I'm kind of on the front lines with that. I really hear tourists, honestly, I hear tourists say, I don't want to shop in Myrtle Beach because I don't want to be punished for visiting your town.
I've heard that too, but then I also hear tourists say, I love coming to South Carolina because the gas is so cheap, and the food is so cheap, and the hotels are so cheap. So you have to weigh those things, and I think all of this is kind of like a balancing act. 1% isn't a lot, and if it's going to help the city grow and it's going to improve the city, I think it's worth it.
Okay, fair enough. That's your take. Like I said, it's a courageous position because a lot of people are against the 1% sales tax.
I know.
But I saw something on your Twitter feed about cameras going up in dangerous areas of Myrtle Beach. What was that about? What's going on?
One of my neighbors mentioned that to me, and he said, how about because I live right on Chester. I don't know if you know Chester and downtown area.
I think we all know Chester, right?
Yes, well, I live on Chester.
Okay.
And I think that a couple of the neighbors have mentioned, there's always a lot of traffic, walking traffic, women out there making a living, young boys out there trying to sell drugs, and someone said to me, we should put cameras on this corner, and then that way that would deter the people, those types of people from that area, and then the citizens would feel safer. So I don't know, it was just an idea, I just threw it out there.
Okay, I saw that on your Twitter feed, and it fascinated me. I said, what's going on?
Well, they do it in other countries, and it seems to work fine. They do it like in England and places like that, and they don't have as much crime as we have, so.
Yeah, Myrtle Beach does have a lot of crime. Well, let me ask you something. from crime back to business, because really business is where Grand Strand voters have their attention right now,
right.
Especially with this election coming up. You're running for city council. What I want to know is, I want you to take this chance right now, not to talk to me so much, but to tell the voters who are small business people, many of them small business people in the Myrtle Beach area, what are you going to do, why they should vote for you to help their struggling businesses?
Well, I probably don't have any specifics because I haven't really given that much thought, but I encourage small business. I would do anything that's brought to my attention as far as promoting small business, helping small businesses be more profitable, helping small businesses stay, bringing people into the area to open a small business. I think small business is where our money's going to be made, because
right.
Myrtle Beach was made on small business when you think about it.
Myrtle Beach and all of South Carolina's
right.
economy is made on small business. And what concerns me, what really concerns me, is I see the city council, you know what they recently did, I'll be curious to hear your thoughts about this. They've banned the sale of laser pointers, those green laser pointers you see everywhere, to kids under the age of 18. That's going to hurt small business. It really does. I mean, it's going to hurt my family's business.
Yeah, because I know they sell them a lot, and people use them with their pets.
Yeah.
The lasers, yeah. So I don't. Sometimes the Myrtle Beach City Council gets into things that they really shouldn't get into, but.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that, Ms. Barnes, because I'm tired of it. You know, and I think a lot of voters, people who you are asking for their votes, are tired of it. People who live in the city saying, this is crazy. Stop stifling small business.
Yeah, and I think, some of the other things, like the sign laws, I remember first moving into Myrtle Beach and someone saying that they couldn't have signs on cabs because it would make the city look too tacky. And then another person said to me, tacky, I mean, Myrtle Beach is tacky.
Myrtle Beach is
That's
tacky.
what makes it so charming.
It's called the Redneck Riviera, right?
Yeah, and that's what makes it charming. And the other day I said something about that, and they said, well, let's see, the tackiest city in the United States is Las Vegas.
Okay.
And the second one is Myrtle Beach.
The Redneck Riviera.
But that's not a bad thing. I mean, that's a good thing. And
it's
I think
the character of the place.
Anything that could encourage people to have more business and encourage small
right.
business and help them make it, I'm all for that.
Well, I'm really glad to hear you say that. What else do you want to say to the voters? This is your chance to tell them why they should vote for you for Myrtle Beach City Council.
Well, I think the main thing is that I don't believe in lifetime politicians. And I think that the people, that's really kind of one of the motivations too, is I think that once people have served a term or maybe two, they need to get out. And I'm not saying that anybody in the city has done a bad job. I'm just saying that you need a fresh perspective. You need somebody in there that has come from the tourist area, that has come from the education area, that lives right directly in the downtown area like I do. So I think that what makes me valuable is that I would bring a fresh perspective into City Council. Instead of keeping the same people all the time, let's change it up a little bit. Let's have some different viewpoints. Let's have some people in there that look at things a little bit differently. I
couldn't agree more, and I think you'll be interested, and the viewers will be very interested to hear that I offered a lot of your opponents the chance to come on here and give me their views and tell the voters what they're all about. And you know what? The incumbents are scared because they all asked me, all the incumbents that I offered the chance to come on here said to me, well, what are we going to talk about? I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about the 1% sales tax. And I told them, I said, the name of the show is On the Spot. Nothing's off limits. And you were game. You were going to come on here. So I think you're absolutely right about the incumbents, especially at the City Council in Myrtle Beach. They need to go home, and we need to get some new blood.
Well, I think we do need new blood.
I do too, and I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joyce Barnes, for coming on.
Thank you.
There you have it. That's Joyce Barnes, candidate for Myrtle Beach City Council. I'll be right back. Welcome back. We're hot and we're bothered, and it's not just because you decided to turn us on in your living room this morning. Well, actually today, Faith is hot, and I'm just really, really bothered. Faith, I hear you're hot for teacher this week. What's up with that?
I'm hot for Kelly Payne. Kelly Payne is a Lexington Richland 5 social studies teacher who teaches at Dutch Fork High School in Irmo. She implemented the popular It Kids lecture series, which brings politicians and civic leaders into her classroom. She brought elected officials like Governor Sanford and then Representative Haley, civic leaders and politicians on both sides of the aisle. She is unique in that she encourages her students to debate the issues on their merit. She encourages her students to get involved in vital political processes. Can you smell trouble brewing already? a teacher encouraging students to get involved in the political process? Well, unfortunately, Ms. Payne's class must have encouraged her students too much or been too popular. So much so that it has been poo-pooed by the educrats in charge of the school district. She apparently has committed a no-no by encouraging political involvement, regardless of political inclination. The board claims that having politicians and civic leaders come to Payne's class could give the appearance of giving them a political platform. But wait, this is a non-election year, right? Why now? Officials have officially sidestepped that answer. Maybe it's because Payne is an outspoken Tea Party supporter on her own time. Or maybe it's because the school district wants to curtail talk of the stimulus or failed policies of the Obama administration. Maybe it's because school districts in general want to promote a leftist agenda, and Ms. Payne's encouragement of her students to become civic-minded doesn't fall into that purview. With South Carolina public schools ranking 48th in the nation for graduation rate, one would wonder why the board would tackle such an innocuous issue. My opinion? Social engineering from the ground up, pure and simple. Education is a government monopoly of free thought. They control curricula content and want to mold future citizens to their own leftist agenda. Ms. Payne encourages independent thought, and subsequently it got shut down by the educrats who thought she was too big for her britches. I say give 'em hell, Ms. Payne, and don't back down. This is why I'm hot for you, Kelly Payne.
Give 'em hell indeed, Miss Payne. Hot for teacher. I like it. I'm bothered this week by the South Carolina Department of Transportation, which just a few days ago reaffirmed its decision to approve a vote-buying scam for I-73. Now recall that the SCDOT isn't paying its bills, is stiffing contractors, and already received a huge federal bailout from Obama. Bottom line, the SCDOT is broke, people, too broke to afford I-73, and it's downright corrupt. Led by Myrtle Beach mafia men like Chairman Danny Isaac, the SCDOT is crony capitalism at its ugliest. In fact, one source well-placed within the SCDOT has been whispering in my ear about a possible pay-to-play scheme with the I-73 right here on the Grand Strand. And that's why I'm bothered this week by the South Carolina Department of Transportation. And that's this week's show. Next week, same time, same place. Keep turning me on, and I'll keep turning you on. Till then, I'm at mandewilkes.com. Welcome back. I'm Mande Wilkes, and you're still on the spot. You didn't get rid of me quite yet. I wanted to remind you real quick about my brand newly published book, Crashing the Club. It's a political memoir about my run-ins with the good old boys right here in South Carolina and right here in Myrtle Beach. I'm kicking butt and naming names in Crashing the Club. It's fun, it's sexy, and it's substantive, and it's definitely scandalous, and frankly, it's scary. You can find it on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com, and on my website, MandeWilkes.com. It's called Crashing the Club. Read it and weep.